record this. Just give me a second. I'm going to switch over here. Okay, bear with me for a second. I'm switching. All right, this is NASDAQ from this morning. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I do want to cover a couple of things real quick. So let me ask a question, make sure everybody's still awake and has their espresso in hand. Pretty much between 6 and 7 o'clock this morning, can anybody tell me what direction we wanted to trade NASDAQ today? Trading NASDAQ between 6 and 7 a.m. Pacific. Here's 6 o'clock right here, by the way. Right, kind of right in there. 7 o'clock, the news event was right over here. What direction was this market heading? Down. Right. Pretty much straight down, yes? Now, I have one shot here. This is one of our auto traders that trades one contract by default. And it's really a very nice little trader. Because with NASDAQ, trading NASDAQ, you're only risking $75 per trade. It's a 15-tick initial stop. And without further ado, let's bring it up and look at what it did between 6 and 7. So here is our 10 range sort of little guidance chart that we keep over here. And we looked at this last night in the webinar, so most of you should be familiar with this. And let's come over and look at the trading chart. Here's the trades it took, starting at 6 o'clock. Now, you can see here that, coming back to the congestion just before the breakdown, that the market was pretty much in a downtrend. However, it had been consolidating for some period here between basically about 2 o'clock Pacific and about 6. See how we were in kind of a funky little choppy mess here? Well, if you fired up one shot at 6 o'clock, right out of the gate, it took a pop right here. See it? Took a long trade, and then took a full stop out. And this happens sometimes. Okay, I'll show you the way you could have avoided this, but just for now, I just let it run with the standard settings. It's just all the standard settings on one shot, taking one contract, so it pops you. So you were actually upside down a couple of times here, and you can see that your equity curve went into the negative by about $100 on those pops. See it? See how you're upside down here? Takes a pop, gets stopped out, takes another entry, gets stopped out, and then finally it finds its groove with this short trade right here. See it? And then you had a little bit of drawdown, because what happens is you get filled here on the short. You're actually in the money. Notice how your equity curve comes all the way back to zero here as you get in the money after the 2 full stop outs, and then it draws all the way back down up until pretty close to your entry point here. See it? And that's why sometimes on these stops you got to leave a little bit of wiggle room. We talk about wiggle room. See the dots? This is your stops right here. See them? So anyway, the end of the story is this. We all know what happened here. By the way, I think Gary pointed this out on one of the equity charts. Not certain, might have been Roosty. This was a textbook yellow bar probe trade like we showed last night in the webinar. See how we come up right here to resistance? See it? And then we roll and we get a resumption of selling in a downtrend. What I like about one shot is you can use it like a little automated friendy kind of sitting right next to you. In other words, you would have already seen if you had one shot running on another screen. And some of our traders do this. They'll put this actually in sim and just kind of watch what it's doing. They'll watch for a breakout. They'll watch for a retracement trade. They'll watch for a break. They'll watch for a yellow bar probe. See, in this case here, for instance, if you had this running on a separate screen and you were watching at 10, you probably wouldn't have taken those long trades, right? Because you knew that you were looking for a breakdown here. And the way to avoid that on one shot would have been to simply toggle longs to false. That's another thing you can do, and we teach how to do that in these webinars. See how you can toggle that to false? In this scenario here, one shot only takes shorts. Only takes shorts. That's another way to avoid that, by the way. But let's say you left it on. Okay, let's say you left it on. Let's say you didn't. You're watching this thing. It's short. You watch a nice retracement. You see a resumption of selling. You jump in here. And down she goes. Caught this nice short trade, nice short trade, nice short trade. You can see over here on the 10, it's dropping very nicely, coming down into support. Here's your trailing stop. When these dots move, what's happening is the script is physically removing that stop trade and putting it over here and then over here and over here. And so it's actually, we show in the webinars manually how you can do that. You can drag your stop down following stealth and the dots, and we show you how to do that, right? But in this case here, of course, One Shot's actually doing it for you, so you don't have to manually move it yourself. And then down here, just a couple of ticks under 03, or a couple of ticks over 03, it hits a full profit target. By default, the profit target is 80 ticks. You can adjust that. You can put it out further. On big running, long running days like this, you can put it out to 120 or 140, in which case it probably wouldn't be hit. And if it did, you'd probably want to stop out. At this point here, you were up about 300 bucks. You would have been up 400 bucks, right? Because 400 bucks would be 80 ticks times 5 is $400. You would be up $400, except for the fact that you had a couple of pops here in the beginning that took you down about 100 bucks. See, what's nice about this trader, once again, is that it's a $5 tick instrument. When it runs, you can stand to make some good money. If you get popped a little bit, most of you, I think, can handle a $100 drawdown, so it's not that big a deal. You're not going to get sort of freaked out because you're down $300, $400, $500 plus. And so when it finds its groove, you can see it claws its way back through up into positive territory here. Now, interesting what happens next. Let me scrunch the 10 down so I can show this a little better over here. Hold on. So there's our 10, kind of tucked in the corner here. And then here's what it does next. After it hits this profit target, it kind of chops around a little bit. And by the way, I'm going to ask a question, see how many of you know this. You can see here that One Shot re-entered. Can anybody say what kind of trade that was? What kind of trade did One Shot take there? Anybody? Anybody know what kind of trade that took? One Shot? It re-entered. Took a full hit took a full profit target, kind of sat on the sidelines for a while here, and then it got back in. What kind of trade is that? Anybody know? That's right. John, Kim, everybody answering here. This is the yellow bar probe trade. It's a probe trade, exactly. Notice here that I'm telling you, this is the beauty of this little tool here. See how you could have patiently watched for this thing to bounce here? Between about 6:38 and about 6:41, you had about 3 to 5 minutes to kind of watch this. And here is the resumption of selling in a downtrend right here. See how she sells off and breaks down? Now what's nice here again, if this was running on another screen and you're kind of watching it, you're seeing it popping in here, you might not even notice yourself that you're in the middle of a probe trade, right? You might not even notice yourself. You might be watching this and saying, hey, this thing kind of seems like it's probing up here. It seems like it's hitting resistance above 06. And it looks like it wants to roll. We say that in the room all the time. It looks like it wants to roll over. And this is the rolling over. Now you can see that One Shot was already in the trade. And you could have pulled the trigger over here very nicely at a break of 04 1/4. Anywhere right in here. This was your opportunity to get short. See it? One Shot was already in, but if you were looking to sort of, discretionarily get in, you would have pulled the trigger over here in this circle, right? All right, let's see what happens. Let's play it out. We kind of know what happens from the 10 over here, right? Down she went, and then down here, in all likelihood, with your manual trading, you probably would have stopped out somewhere down here, okay? Because what we teach is that you want to keep it kind of in between your stop dots and your stealthy line. See the stop dots in the stealthy line? So in all likelihood, you probably stopped out somewhere in here. And if you manually took the trade after observing the fact that One Shot was already short on the probe trade, this would have been your manual trade here, like such. Okay? Now you can see here, this is the drawdown on the trade. I mean, you can see here you were up over $500. And then when we talk about the drawdown at the end, when you get a retracement up to a stop, you see you went all the way from 500 back down to 400. So it gave up almost 100 bucks at the end of the trade. Now, one last thing on this is that you don't have to wait for these retracements to occur, obviously. If it's taken a couple of winners back to back and you're up 550, you know what you can do, of course? Yeah, hit the close button. right? You can simply bank the coin. You don't have to let it keep trading. If you're happy with $500 and that's your profit goal for the day, just toggle it off. By the way, if you're going to hit close position and you're trading one shot or the other auto traders, make sure that you toggle this off if you're done. It's a false. Because what would happen if you close the position and don't do that, if the conditions are such that it would re-enter, it would go ahead and take another trade. Maybe you don't want that. Okay, so just make sure you turn those off. All right, so let's say you let it keep trading. Let's see what it does. Here we get a little drawdown on the retracement. Comes in, pops a long trade. You could have avoided that, obviously, by letting the trade shorts only based on guidance from the 10. But let's say you didn't. It went ahead and took a long trade, right? Full stop out, draws you down to 3,350, and then takes the re-enters the short, trails the stop, and here's the end of the story down here. Runs all the way down, runs all the way down, runs all the way down, all the way down, and hits another profit target right near the low of the morning at 7.05 and 3/4. So if you let it continue to trade, you ended the day up about 7.35, plus or minus a couple of ticks, depending on how you ran it. And here again, you know, you had a couple of chances to get in. If you're watching one shot and you're noticing it's already short and trailing stops, here was a good little quick. Now, you might not have got this because this is around the news, but let's say it wasn't the news. Here, of course, is another little probe trade setup. This was kind of shotgunning around the news, so you probably didn't get it. But if this was a standard type setup, you can see here we have our standard sort of price action we see all the time. Here's our thrust, and then we get a retracement. So it's like we teach in the webinars, right? You're looking for the thrust, retracement, you're looking for probe entries, trailing your stop, trailing your stop, trailing your stop. And then either you hit a profit target or eventually you probably stopped out of this trade down here. See where it came up through both the stealth and your stop dots here. So in all likelihood, that trade was pretty much done right there. So, you know, like we showed last night and we show in a lot of our webinars, you really don't have to have a lot of testing audio. 1, 2, 3. Am I back?
Yeah, now you're back.
Hello?
You're back now. Yep. Can you hear us?
Hello?
We can hear you, but you
Testing audio.
evidently
1, 2,
can't
3.
hear us. Hang on a second. You guys can hear him now, right?
Yeah, I hear him.
Speakers are back. Hello? Yeah, I think. Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't remember where I cut out. But anyway, that's what I wanted to show. You could have ended the day up 7.35, depending on when you got in and out of these trades here. Or you could have, you know, over here you could have booked your 500 and not caught that last trade at the end, right around the news. Either way, it was a very nice day trading NASDAQ. And all I'm trying to show here is that you don't need a lot of charts. You don't have to take a lot of trades. You can simply use a little 10, 12 range guidance chart. You can trade off of 4 or 5. Simply pick your spots to get in, trail your stop intelligently, and you know, once you hit your goal for the day, whatever that is, a couple $500, you lock it down and you stop trading. You don't have to overtrade. I mean, there were some other. Is it in a trade now? No, it's not in a trade now. I just ran this thing through 7 o'clock, so it caught the early moves and then it caught the news, you know, the news move here, and it's done. Over here, of course, you had a couple of pops long. I don't want to get into all this. I can show this later tonight. Right over here on the 10, of course, you see that you bounced, had a trend change, and then you had a couple of pullbacks here that you could have traded. I think Gary called these out. Rich, Gary were watching these after 7:30. You know, and so you've been in a range. I mean, you know, you're between, you know, 75 and 88. And you can see here, there's been a couple little trades that popped in and set up. You know, you might have taken them, maybe you didn't. Here was the bounce after the news. You got a couple little long pops here. Maybe you got it, maybe you didn't. You know, if you hit your goal, maybe you stopped trading over here at the bottom. But there was a couple little pops you could have taken here. Arjun, let's see here. Big green on the 500 plus, 250 losses. What do I do? Arjun, I really didn't want to get into a lot of detail on this here. We can do that tonight if you're able to attend. If not, I think you're a member and we record those. We'll post that so you can look at it. We'll get into more detail about how to posting it. For those of you that are wondering what we're talking about, big green is a profit goal for the day. So when we have our profit goal set to 500, there's various ways where the auto trader Just basically hits a market order and shuts off. So in this case here, for instance, if your big green profit goal was 500, it would have stopped trading over here, somewhere probably right in here, where it hit this $500 mark here, plus or minus a couple of $50. He's talking about max loss too. 250. You could set the goal for 500 and set a max loss for 250, which, by the way, would be about 75 times. That'd be about 4 losses in a row with no winners. Pretty unusual for that to happen on NASDAQ, but you could stop it out at that. Max loss. By the way, we had a question on high energy times. High energy times are times that we treat similar to news events. So we're looking for more or less kind of a swing high, a swing low, or increased volatility. I think we're the only company that offers software and training like this that has high energy times. I'm not aware of any company out there that offers these other than us. So they're kind of unique to us. But they come out twice a day. They come out the night before for the overnight sort of European currency trading session. Got a lot of traders overseas in the Netherlands that use those and trade them. And then, of course, we have the ones that come out before the open that handle all the way from 6:30 around the open till the close Pacific. Right now we're on the auto trader we have for trial is the trendline trader, which I think Gary's shown a few times and we show in the webinars. That's sort of quasi-automated, semi-discretionary sort of auto line trader. We'll show that tonight in the webinar. There is a video and there's some things out there about it right now. We've kicked around doing a trial on one shot, but we're not really certain if we're going to do that or not. We're going to try to sort that out later. See the market breaking a little higher here? Here's a little, here, let's come over and see what's going on here. Got a little yellow bar probe and she's trying to head back up here. Well, I'll tell you, they just slammed the Dow. I think the Dow was down 550 points at one point. And then down here, of course, after the news, they squeezed the shorties, and then now they're trying to head back up. This was the yellow bar probe trade that just happened, by the way. Let's take a quick peek at this, and then I'm going to wrap. When we say probe trade, what we're talking about is that's synonymous with retracement. So here's thrust in the market, right? Here's a retracement. Here's a thrust. This is just typical, price action patterns. They happen pretty much universally across the board. Stocks, Forex, doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. Some retrace more than others. And then, of course, we just got a yellow bar probe and we're heading back up. If you took that, you probably entered somewhere here around 89-ish. You'd be trailing a stop right now. Okay, guys, I think that's it. I'm going to turn off the recording.